I have a lot of born again Christian friends,
Yeah.
you know, that were from the New Age, and found Jesus and
Yeah.
everything, and now they cast everything aside that is not Jesus. So everything is.
Then they don't actually understand Jesus,
Mm,
because there have been many misinterpretations and misrepresentations and misunderstandings about what Jesus actually said and what he was all about, because a lot of the dialogue that came from him and others around him have been altered for the purposes of political power and certain kinds of gain, and therefore you don't really have an absolutely thoroughly accurate representation of what was really said at the time. Plus, in not understanding Jesus in the full capacity of his expression, then many people who purport to understand him or purport to believe in him actually have no understanding of the fact that he was presenting both a male and a female aspect in the Mary of the Magdalene. This is a couple. This is a male and female representation in balance, and many of the things that were actually talked about are extremely metaphysical and not exactly what the idea of the Christian belief system purports to be true.
mm.
I was wondering if Moses actually went up on Mount Sinai and got these 2 tablets and where they came from.
He was given knowledge. It was an extraterrestrial encounter. The knowledge was inscribed in what you might call tablets, but not exactly of stone.
And what were they made of, and where are they now?
They were a kind of crystalline formation, a kind of a crystalline nanomaterial with information that was downloadable upon touching the surface with your hand. There were some inscriptions in it, but only in the most general sense of, here's this category, this category, this category, this category, this category. Touch here, you will get that knowledge. Touch here, you will get that knowledge. Touch here, you will get that knowledge. Now, what has been translated in your language as the so-called 10 commandments were not commandments. That's a misinterpretation. They were simply 10 expressions of existence. In other words, to give you an example, what translated as, I am the Lord your God, you shall not have false gods before me, as a commandment, actually was, I am all that is, anything else you can imagine is still me, so there can be no false gods. That's the difference. Where are they now? Wouldn't you like to know? We're actually not allowed to tell you. However, we are allowed to give you a hint, if we may.
I would love a hint.
All right. What is the most famous story about someone solving a riddle that you have in your culture? Nope. Louder.
Something, the Sphinx?
What a surprise. See what you can find. Solve the riddle.
Okay, I have
We're
to
only
think
allowed to
about
tell
that.
you so much. We cannot intervene in this process. But they do exist. They can be found. In, or perhaps out of time.
And this extraterrestrial presence that gave us these tablets, are they also responsible for the Jews being in the desert for 40 years and the parting of the sea?
Yes. They are a branch of what you have come to understand as the Anunnaki, but not the original ones.
And do you know why they chose to give it to the Jews?
I do.
Can you tell us why?
Not my job to tell you. Someone else will tell you in time or out of it.
The flood is the story of the destruction of Atlantis.
Okay, the flood,
Yes.
primarily.
Because the asteroidal or cometary body that slammed into what you call the Atlantic Ocean created great tsunamis that wiped out Atlantis, but also affected many other parts of the nearby land masses, such as your North and Central South America, your Africa, Mediterranean, and European coastlines, and Middle Eastern. So therefore, the idea of the story of the flood is a racial memory of the destruction caused by the tsunamis from that impact in your ocean.
Basically, the idea of what you typically on your planet refer to as an angelic energy. We can euphemistically say, now of course this is in a sense a symbol, but we can euphemistically say that they are the next step down from all that is. The first split off from all that is are what you call angelic consciousnesses. Does that make sense, first of all?
Not yet.
All right. You understand the concept of all that is?
Yes.
What you typically call God?
Yes.
Well, you understand that everything is made of God, yes?
Yes.
Therefore, everything in a sense is like a step down, taking the frequency and differentiating it and splitting it up into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces? Yes?
Yes.
All right. Well, the angelic realm is the first step down from God. The first reflection of all that is into many reflections. That's what you call the angelic level. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Ascended masters are simply beings who allow themselves to incorporate within their expression of being in any given reality more or most of the totality of the collective consciousness of that reality, and the vibration raises up, and they can sometimes remain in that reality, dispensing information, sharing information, or they can ascend to the point where they completely leave that reality, maybe even leave physical reality altogether. Ascension is just a matter of degree of frequency, in the same way that you could say that steam is the ascended master of ice.
What was the Ark of the Covenant, and who gave Moses the Ten Commandments, if they actually occurred?
The Ark is a device that was mostly a communication device, but also could be used to channel energy in a variety of ways for a variety of purposes. It was a communication device between those humans and an extraterrestrial society. The Ten Commandments were not originally 10 commandments. They were guidelines that explain the idea of the relationship between you and creation. I am the Lord your God, thou shalt not have false gods before me, was originally delivered as the idea of, I am all that is. Anything you may think is a false god isn't, because I am everything and cannot be false. Quite a difference. You understand?
Yes.
So that's the idea that those guidelines were delivered, both through the idea of the auspices of telepathic instruction, but also the device was delivered from an extraterrestrial society that people on your planet referred to as angels of God, but they basically were an extraterrestrial society.
So when Moses went up and got the tablets and all of that.
A ship landed on top of the mountain and delivered what needed to be delivered.
Thank you.
But again, there was much misinterpretation, because it's coming from a very high dimensional level and being translated or stepped down into physical reality. And in that step down process, there can be automatic distortion and misrepresentation of concepts that come from higher levels if the filters for fear-based beliefs are, shall we say, getting in the way.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Yes.
The idea of the Magdalene was the equal opposite, so to speak, of the individual understood as Jesus Christ, and why Magdalene was his primary disciple, and more than that. So together, the two of them are really more representative of the idea of what has, shall we say, been misunderstood as the information shared by Jesus and Mary Magdalene. It should have come as a duality. It should have come as a new form of Trinity. But again, because of the fear-based beliefs in the male energy at the time in that culture, the female part was not accepted due to the insecurities of the masculine disciples.
So you've mentioned before that if we were to time travel back in time, because our frequency is much higher now, that we would glow if we encountered the historical beings.
You would appear to them to glow, yes.
Yeah. So did Jesus appear to glow also?
From time to time, yes. This is what is usually referred to as the transfiguration in your religious doctrines. The idea that he was perceived as being surrounded by a glowing aura.